in 2019 you attacked Labor's EV policy, saying it would be the end of the weekend. Looking back, was that silly, short-sighted or just a lie?
I don't think their policy was a good policy. I still don't think it was a good policy. Because Labor wants to tell everybody what to do. They love telling people what to do, what cars to drive. I think Australians have had enough of governments telling them what to do, frankly. We've just been through 2 years of governments having to tell people what to do. For Liberals, that does not come easily. It's not something we instinctively do. And it's not something I think Australians want to see more of in the future. See, I trust Australians. I didn't think we had to go and pay people to get vaccinated. That's what Anthony Albanese thought he had to do. I trust Australians that when they're presented with good options at good prices, they'll make good choices. I don't have to tell them to get rid of the car they've got now. That's what Labor wants to do. I'm not going to put up the price of their petrol on families and make them go and buy electric vehicles and walk away from the things that they have. That's just not the Liberal way and the Nationals way. So, no, I don't regret opposing Bill Shorten's policy. I oppose lots of Bill Shorten's policies. I oppose his 45% emissions reduction by 2030 as well. And so did the Australian people, by the way. So, I don't have a problem with electric vehicles. I just have a problem with governments telling people what to do about what vehicles they should drive and where they can drive them, which is what Bill Shorten's plan was.
Well, actually, also in... 30%
of cars will be EVs by 2030.
Yeah.
That obviously blows a huge hole in fuel excise revenue for the federal government.
Sure.
Is that a problem you're willing to solve, or are you planning to leave it to the states to implement their own distance-based car industry starting to do through these?
Well, I think as these new technologies come into place, and they'll happen over time. This is not, one day all petrol vehicles shut down and electric vehicles start up the next day. I mean, that's the sort of thing the Labor Party likes to talk about. I mean, this happens over time, and allowing consumers to lead this process, I think, is really important. Because you know what drives Toyota? The customer. The customer's always right, and the customer wants to buy electric vehicles at a cheaper price and get longer duration from those vehicles. And I'll tell you what, that's what Toyota will deliver. That's what other major vehicle companies will deliver. And they'll be driven by the customer. And as the government, we're not going to get in the way of that. We want the customers to be able to drive the incentive for these vehicle companies to drive their costs down. We don't want to drive those costs down by writing off big cheques to multinational companies. That's not the way you do this. You actually put the customer in the driving seat. And you say, you're going to drive this, and you're going to drive the companies to get their technology costs down. Now, our vehicle manufacturers around the world have been doing this for a very long time, and they're very good at it. And I have no doubt that they will meet the market and where the market needs to be at. But that will have implications for revenue bases down the track, and I'm sure with many things. That's why I say the challenge of addressing climate change is just not an environmental one. It's a very important environmental challenge. But it's no longer about the if, the when and the why. It's about the how. This is a practical challenge now. This is an economic challenge. And you need a strong economic plan based on the market principles which our economy is based on. You don't need to hand the economy to government to solve this. You actually need government to hand the solutions to the economy and back that in, and the choices that companies and consumers want to make. That's our approach.
The Andrews government are one of the first state governments, though, to decide to actually tax EV users to make up that shortfall that they assume they won't have in the future as people switch over. Are you supportive?
Well, it's a matter for them. The state governments are sovereign at how they do those things, and that's something between them and their taxpayers.
If the longest states implement schemes like that, they're at great risk that the Commonwealth will never get that revenue back, but it's money that you won't be able to replace in the budget.
As a Treasurer and as a Prime Minister, I know the one thing that ensures that Australians can rely on the essentials that are provided by governments is a strong economy. That's what actually drives your revenues. What drives your revenues is that you have an economic plan that sees your economy grow and that sees people in work. One of the key, well, I'd say it was the key thing that prior to this pandemic, when we brought the budget back into balance, the biggest game changer in bringing the budget back to balance was getting people off welfare and into work. If you've got a strong economy, then you can pay for hospitals. If you've got a strong economy, you can pay for schools. You can guarantee the essentials that Australians rely on. And so our focus, my government's focus, has always been on having strong economic management, because that's what underwrites the services that Australians rely on.